Good morning. Thanks for being here. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. It's one of my favorite holidays of the year. In this little church, we're all in here together. It's just a little church in a humble little city in a big world, and we all have our challenges. Every one of us has a separate challenge, even as we speak today. And we all try together, and this church helps us get through our challenges. God helps us, this church helps us, and we try to learn something. I know over the years we've questioned in this church, and why don't we have a choir, or why don't we have a big Sunday school? And these are questions, but you know what? This church to me has always been a thinking church, and it's a comfortable church. We can just come right down over here and not have to wear a coat and tie like I am today. And it's really nice. It's such a blessing in our lives. This church is just so wonderful. And so with that in mind, I would just like to say, I'd like to thank some of the people that really make this church work, just real briefly. I'd like to thank Marita, who's not here, and Eddie. I'd like to thank Velma. There's Marita! You know, Marita, you're not wearing white. I didn't recognize you. Anyway, thank Eddie and Marita and Velma and Melanie and Rick. I don't know where we'd be without Rick. And Jerry helps with the lawn, and Kate helps with some of the excursions and the board. Today is Laurel's birthday, by the way. Happy birthday, Laurel. And, and of course, Jan Graham, my gosh, what all the work that Jan does, and Tammy and Velvet. And I'm probably leaving a lot of people out, but we're very lucky to have all this. Let's give a hand to our church because it's a great blessing in our lives. The last time I spoke, the Omnitones played, and I think Marita and Velma planned this, so at the least you'll get some good musical entertainment, So I'm grateful. I'm really grateful. The last time they were here, they played a song by Robin Thompson. I talked to Velvet about that. Robin Thompson was a great musician in my world, in my little world. Robin lived in Richmond. And he came to Roanoke probably 2 or 3 times a year and played at the Coffee Pot in different places. And he was such a talent. I mean, he had a voice. I hope some of you knew who he is or who was. Robin Thompson had such a voice. It was every bit as good as Paul McCartney. I am kidding you not. And he wrote music as good as the Eagles. I mean, and so unfortunately, I have some sad news. Robin passed away last month at the age of 66, much too young. And, it's very sad for us all, but he was such a blessing in our lives. And I just want to mention him. I called my friend Roger, or actually I texted him, and I told him, I said, Robin passed away, because Roger enjoyed hearing Robin like I did, and we went to see him many, many times. And the one thing Roger said back to me, he said, I'll never understand why he didn't make it big time. And there were times in my life I thought, why isn't this guy big time? I'm so lucky I can drive 15 minutes and hear something like, the Eagles here or something. And we never did understand why he didn't make it big time. And I imagine Robin thought about that himself. Why didn't he make it big time? So maybe Robin had a missed opportunity, or maybe he didn't. But we were all blessed to have him, and I thank you all for playing him last time. Today my talk is called The Thankful Season. I'd like to read something. "In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you." 1 Thessalonians 5:18. So just take a look at this bulletin we have right here. On the first page, it said, it is not happy people who are thankful. It is thankful people who are happy. And that is just so meaningful. Let me ask you something. What were the most happiest times in your lives? Go back in your mind and think, when were you the very happiest? Maybe it was when you graduated from high school and you got that diploma. You had a sense of accomplishment. You pleased your parents, and it was the newfound freedom. Maybe it was college. Finally, you can get out into the world and be on your own. That was a nice thing. Maybe it was a wedding, or maybe it was the birth of a child. I mean, there's nothing more precious than the birth of your children. So all these things are very important in our lives. So, when was the last time you thought about it? When was the last time you thought about graduating from college or high school? Probably only when you went to a graduation and saw someone else graduate. So, we don't really think about these things unless we're at a wedding or a funeral or something, and we should think about them more often because our lives are very transient. I was thinking about John Wayne the other day. I was flipping the channels and I landed on some old movie, and it was The Shoot Us with John Wayne. It was one of his later movies. And I thought about John Wayne. We've got our iPads and we can look things up while we're, watching a movie, and you say, well, I'll study the cast on this. But anyway, John Wayne was bigger than life. I mean, he was a top box office draw for 3 decades. He was 6'4", and he's almost been gone 40 years. And why do I bring up John Wayne? Well, John Wayne was very important, but we don't think about him anymore. And the point is, our lives are very, very transient too. So I was thinking about speaking to myself on this because this whole message is really just to me. I was at Walgreens the other day, and there was this lady in front of me, and she was had 20 items, in a little basket sitting there, and she was had coupons, and she and the clerk were looking over the clippings in the newspaper, disputing a price, and then she paid with a check. And so I'm telling myself, I said, next time I'm doing this, I'm going to remember those very happy times in my life, and it's going to make it go by a little bit faster, I'd like to review a lesson that we probably all learned in Sunday school, and it's Jesus and the 10 lepers. And I'm going to read the scripture. It is, and as he entered a village, he was met by 10 lepers who stood at a distance and lifted up their voices, saying, Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. When he saw them, he said to them, Go show yourselves to the priests. And as they went, they were cleansed. Then one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back, praising God with a loud voice. And he fell on his face at Jesus' feet, giving him thanks. And he was a Samaritan. Jesus answered, Were 10 not cleansed? Where are the 9? Was no one found to return and give praise to God except this foreigner? And he said to them, Rise and go your way. Your faith has made you well. That's Luke 17, verses 12 to 19. Now, from this, we learn that God desires for us to express our thankfulness for Him in all that He does for us and in all of our lives. When we take time to not acknowledge the giver and not just the gifts, we please the Lord as well as enjoy the spiritual healing from the gratefulness. This man was genuine and he was true to heart. Where were you 5 years before you were born? Do you know where you were? I don't know where I was. But you are alive today. Now, isn't that a blessing just in itself? You're alive today. Chances are you had breakfast this morning and probably you're going to lunch after this. We're very lucky. But just so you know, if we have a roof above our head, a couple of meals a day, access to the internet, and we've received more opportunities and more material goods and education than the majority of the world's population. In fact, research suggests that we may actually have 3 times more positive experiences than negatives. Now, this is important. If you really were to write down your day, you would and notice them, you would have 3 times more positive experiences than the negative experiences. And we just don't think about that sometimes. So, however, we're burdened with the problems that we inevitably face in life. We often fail to remember the blessings and give too much importance to the problems. And in a scientific analysis of this, psychologists have found 2 reasons for this habit. The negativity bias, or why we focus on what's wrong. Research suggests our perspective is biased towards the negative and that for our minds, bad is stronger than good. Sometimes just hearing one word from someone can ruin our whole day that otherwise was going very well. This development may have helped our species in the past to survive danger and be aware, but in our current time and age, our negativity bias is no longer appropriate. It may lead to increased stress and a skewed vision of reality. You're not even seeing reality. Number 2, another reason why we do this is habitualization, or why we forget what's right. We have an increased boost of happiness when wonderful news events happen. Like, saying a new relationship or buying a new car, receiving that promotion. But over time, these events lose their ability to bring renewed happiness because we get accustomed to them. And as Joel Osteen says in his books, one of the main reasons that we lose enthusiasm in life is because we become ungrateful. We let what was once a miracle become common to us. We get so accustomed to His goodness, it just becomes routine. As a consequence, we often fail to appreciate that which we have. We tend to be grateful for what we only had once it was gone. For example, if you get sick, you realize the benefit of having health. And if you lost your electricity in your house, well, we know what that causes. That's just, we're helpless. So how can we overcome these tendencies for the negative? And the secret is in gratitude. Recent research shows that gratitude has a tremendous effect on our health and happiness. And a couple of these are one. It not only feels good, because you always feel good when you express happiness to your family or to your kids or to your boss or anybody. You feel happy, but it also boosts your immune system. It reduces stress and anxiety. It buffers against depression, improves sleep, and supports healthy, proactive behaviors such as exercise. On top of all that, it may even make you smarter. People who regularly practice gratitude are less likely to procrastinate and more likely to find creative solutions to problems. And the benefits are reciprocal. It not only helps the person who is giving, it also helps the person who is receiving, but amazingly, it helps all the other people who are witnessing this. It's so good, it just helps everyone involved. And you don't need to get anything to trigger these benefits. You can practice being grateful for the presence of someone in your life or just for your existence, like we talked about a minute ago. It's as simple as stopping a few times a day, intentionally paying attention to what is happening and connecting with the sensations of gratitude. The biggest challenge of giving thanks is that your brain will give you lots of compelling reasons to resent, resist, and complain about circumstances and people in your life. Being grateful is not a replacement for addressing injustice, asserting values, or working towards important goals, or dealing with a challenge. But practicing gratitude is a way to improve your quality of life and relationships while you are doing these. Despite what your brain may tell you, your capacity for being grateful is not dependent on your circumstances or how you feel. Put simply, gratitude is available to you whenever you choose to practice it. Like if you're in that line at Walgreens. Whenever you want to practice. This is why mindfulness and gratitude are powerfully complementary. Mindfulness is the skillful use of attention. It's what you're allowing your mind, your brain to think about. If you can control what you think about, you control so many things. Mindfulness and gratitude are very important, and they're complementary. So when you're caught spinning a pattern of worry, self-judgment, or blame, it can be very helpful to notice how you are spending your time and energy. Mindfulness and gratitude can greatly replace these thoughts. And a friend of mine once told me, this is very important, gratitude is a bulky emotion. It doesn't leave room for much else. So, life is hard. I was on the Greenway 2 weeks ago and passed a friend from high school and asked him how he's doing. He said, well, I'm battling some cancer right now. And I've been praying for him. It was shocking. And, we've listened to the news. Jane was talking about all the stuff in the news. It's getting all of us unsettled. There's so much stuff to worry about in this world. There's no lack of that. But, sometimes we just beat ourselves up unnecessarily. This past week, 17 exceptional people were honored with the Presidential Medal of Honor. And I'm not going to list them all, but a couple of them were Steven Spielberg, James Taylor, and Barbra Streisand. Barbra Streisand, I used to think, what a voice. And she probably still has a great voice. But growing up and listening to her, I said, that is fantastic. I don't know how she does it. But then, if you think about contemporary times, we now have Taylor Swift. And we have Katy Perry. Now, these people can sing outstandingly, plus they can dance, plus they write their own music. Now, even Barbra Streisand might be a little intimidated by these, but Barbra Streisand is such a blessing in our world. And it's really up to us to look at things in the right way, because I don't really think my golden retriever at home is worrying about the fact that she's not a German Shepherd. So I was really struck by Marita's example last week, the black dot. And I think most of you are here to see it. I've thought about it all week long. You know, we can think about the health, we can think about the world, and we're concentrating on the black dot. But there's so many things. Think about that graduation, that relationship, or that promotion. Think of the white space of the paper. It's really overwhelming. There's so much more. And there's a quote from Oprah Winfrey I'd like to read. And she says, "Be thankful for what you have. You'll end up having more. If you concentrate on what you don't have, you will never, ever have enough." So, in closing, I'd just like to say we cherish all those times of the year that intrinsically enable us to review our lives and ponder what's happening. Like when you're at the beach and you're sitting there watching the waves and you think about the last time you were at the beach and what has happened. You know, I lost my job, or I have a new nephew. And it's just a time to ponder. Certainly birthdays are like that, but Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's is really profound. Is really profound in that way. Hopefully you all had lots of blessings last Thursday. You know, I hope you didn't worry about some of the first world problems that we have of, I had red velvet instead of coconut cake. You know, I don't know I had to eat at two houses. I don't know how I'm going to do it. You know, or we forgot the cranberry sauce. So these are first world problems we are so blessed to have. You know, I hope you had a good Thanksgiving because it's truly a wonderful time. And what I'd like to mention today is you remember the spirit of gratitude as you go into Christmas. Christmas is a hectic time. We had Black Friday and we got to get presents, got to find money. But remember the meaning of Christmas, and that old saying is it's better to give than receive. It really is. And in making your New Year's resolutions, it's good to watch out for your diet. And I'm not going to eat junk food anymore and all this stuff, but make one of your resolutions, and the most important one is a resolution of gratitude. Show gratitude multiple times a day. Show it when you're in line at Walgreens. Show it when you're with someone special. Just show it all the time, even in your mind. It will make such a difference in your life. You know, the next time you meet someone for lunch, don't think about counting all the red lights on your way, but really count all the green lights, because you'll be surprised. There's lots of green lights. Thoughtfulness is a sign of a changed life, and God is up to something good. So I'd like to mention about Robin Thompson one more time. You know, we could say he had a bad life. I mean, not a bad life. We could say he had an unfulfilled life or an incomplete life. But that's really not the case, you know. Robin, not only having that voice, he didn't make it big time, but Robin had six albums. He produced 6 albums, and which were fantastic. And he sang with Timothy B. Smith, who was with the Eagles. He knew Bruce Springsteen personally. He sang on the stage with Bruce Springsteen many times. I mean, how would you like to just have the chance of just sitting down and meeting Bruce Springsteen, let alone singing with him? And Robin, in his latter years, he was fighting this cancer for over 10 years, and it did not deter him. I would see him on Facebook, and he was going to Asia. He was going to Europe, and I think he actually had these venues pay for his trips, as they should. And he was a great photographer. He took all these beautiful pictures when he was in China, and he put them up there, and he was a great photographer. And one of his passions in life was his sailboat, the Songbird. And you'd see pictures of him on his sailboat out in the Chesapeake Bay. And lastly, he was a father of 2. He was married for 44 years to Vicki, and he was a father to 2 daughters, and they both graduated from UVA. So, and he's a great-grandfather to the 4 grandchildren that he had. So, you know, Robin had a very successful life. He had a great life, and he was a blessing to all of us. So it doesn't really matter if he didn't make it big. He made it his way. So, and last, I would say one more verse, and I've always loved this verse. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, or what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air, for do they They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, yet their heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Matthew 6:25-26. And I'd like to pray, please. Let's go within. Father, we give thanks for our lives. Thanks for knowing you and the spiritual food of this church. As we truly acknowledge the multitudes of gifts in our lives, help us express them to you, our loved ones, and in all the people we encounter, that we may benefit for all good. May we leave today not just showing thankfulness on Thanksgiving and Christmas, but we make a resolution to be grateful today and every day in our lives for your good. Amen. Thank you.